advise us what we're gonna do from then, because obviously there's no time now between now and July 31st to hold a public hearing. So I make a motion.
Well,
I make a motion, I'm still speaking. I make a
There's time
motion.
for discussion also regarding your motion.
And I'm going to cite MCL section 125.3871, which states that this has to be published as a public hearing, that it has to be a publication 15 days in advance. So I'm going to make a motion to table this until a conversation is had with our attorney specific to that MCL. It is 11 o'clock in the morning. It is 11 o'clock in the morning. You have time to talk to him and get a notice to Pinconning Journal today to start that clock ticking so that we can be in compliance with the law. So my motion is to table.
Stop, you are out of order.
Oh,
I am making a motion.
Would you please call the lawyer?
I am making a motion that we adopt this flood damage prevention ordinance on recommendation by our attorney and approval by EGLE, and that I will take the time to call and explain all your concerns, which I'm sure he knows about, but I make a motion that we adopt this ordinance, which is 2024-01. And I will check to see if there's anything else that needs to be done, but it's just, I don't think he would advise us to do stuff that wasn't correct. And he gave us the step-by-steps to do this. So do I hear a second?
No second.
Okay, we'll take a roll call vote on moving forward with this, and then we will check to see if we're in violation of anything.
Okay, so I have a question. If we vote to pass this now, and it does require a public hearing, I mean, then what?
Well, we'd have to stop. We wouldn't comply with the July 31st. I'll call him before she puts it in the paper to see what we gotta put in the paper.
Well, can we just take time and just make the
No.
phone call now?
No.
Because if you vote,
Then you're breaking the law, potentially.
Well, I guess the question, or maybe the issue that I have is that if we don't vote on it, and it doesn't require the public hearing, then it sets us back for the.
well, and that's why I said make the phone call now.
Stop.
Right.
We've even checked to make sure, Sherry and I both checked to make sure that we have to hold the meeting before the publication. It was kind of, one of the emails that we received was kind of iffy on which way it should go. But it was to vote on it and then put it in the paper.
Right.
So.
But that doesn't give the public any time to comment, which is why the public hearing is required, because we
Maybe
already
the
passed
public
this.
hearing isn't required for this.
Well, that's why I said, pick up the phone, dial the digits, and ask the question. It's that simple. It's a 5-minute thing.
Most of the time they're in court in the morning, so they ain't gonna call you back.
It's a Monday morning.
You can try.
I am telling you that I will check on it, and we will not do anything against the people of this township.
But by voting, we could.
That is voting.
Yes,
which
voting
would
to
be-
approve something without proper protocol would be a violation.
As near as I know, I have the proper protocol. Our attorney gave us the proper protocol.
What's his phone number?
There's a motion on the floor, let's vote on it. And we can move forward, and we can stop this and do it if there's something else that needs to be done. Then I will check on it.
What's his phone number?
There's a motion on the floor.
I said,
Vote
what's his
no.
phone number? I'll abstain.
Okay, abstain.
But, oh, here we go. Just a moment.
Well, I mean, you can't abstain.
Just abstain.
There's no conflict of interest.
Well,
Yeah, there is. I won't break the law. I won't break the law.
Then vote.
This is,
There's no abstain.
I'm gonna call 989. I'm gonna call their number and see if somebody answers. So I would suggest, let's wait a moment and call them and see if we can get
There's a
through
motion
somebody.
on the floor. Let's vote. Let's move on.
this, then these people could be in serious trouble.
Plus, I mean, if we vote on it now and it doesn't need a public.
Good morning, Smith Brooker, this is Sarah.
Hi, it's Richard Sheppard in. This is Charles from Cohorts Township. We were having a meeting and we had a question.
Okay, let me check for you one moment.
Thank you, ma'am.
Hi, this is Cindy. How can I help you?
Cindy, Charles Campbell, Cohorts Township. We're in a meeting right now. We're looking at this ordinance that was sent to us by Rick, ordinance number 2024-01. And when you pass an ordinance, normally those have to have a public hearing before you go into this. So the question is, we've not had a public hearing or public notice in a public paper. And so there's a certain MCL that talks about how you go about passing an ordinance. So we're supposedly going to vote on something that the public is not informed of, nor was there a public hearing. Question.
Okay, Rich is standing right here. I will transfer the call over to him.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Rich Sheppard, Charles Campbell. I was calling in reference to, we have this flood ordinance 2024-01. Normally when you pass an ordinance, you do a public notice, you have a public hearing, then you vote on that ordinance. We haven't done none of that. And according to MCL 125.3871, I believe it would say we must do it that way. But we haven't done any of the pre-work, and in this meeting, supposedly we are going to vote on an ordinance that the public has not been informed of. So could you elaborate for us, please? I have Lori, Sam, Sherry, and Melissa. We're all in a meeting, and there are 3 public people here on speakerphone that we're trying to get this answer to. Hello? 125.3871 speaks of adoption of an ordinance, and to adopt an ordinance, it talks about the public notice, the public hearing, because we just went through that with another ordinance, and it says we should let the public know.
Would you look at, do you have that in front of you?
The ordinance, yes.
No, do you have that section of the statute in front of you?
Yeah, there's a section of the statute right here, yes.
At the top of the page, it says Michigan Planning Enabling Act.
Yeah,
Well, we can go to the Open Meetings Act as well. That's MCL 15.265. That talks about giving notice of a public hearing and allowing a chance for the public to review an ordinance.
Let's go to section 41. health, safety, and general welfare, to provide for the establishment of the township police department, to provide for the policing of townships by certain law enforcement officers, etc., to provide sanctions to repeal all parts and conflict, adoptions by township board. Except as otherwise provided in this subsection, the township board of the township at a regular or special meeting by a majority of the members elected of the township board may adopt ordinances regulating the public health, safety, and general welfare of persons and property, including but not limited to ordinances concerning fire protection, licensing of the use of bicycles, traffic, parking, or vehicle parking vehicles, subsidiary sidewalk maintenance, and repairs, licensing of businesses, establishments, licensing and regulation of public regulations, etc. If the state laws are to be enforced, the township shall have a law enforcement unit that may administer laws. And you go on later in that, the ordinance enacted may apply to streets, roads, highways. Township may enact a provision of the Michigan Vehicle Code and adopted by reference the FEMA regulations to allow that there be, what was the Open Meetings Act that was cited?
Well, it's specific to notice requirements, because we as a board did not receive a copy of this ordinance until Saturday morning when we were told about this meeting that would take place this morning. It was never put out to the public for review. We were not given time to review it other than a weekend, basically. We had not been informed about this specifically previously, other than trying to gather information ourselves. And thank you for your itemized invoice, which brought it to our attention. The point would be that if we're going to
Pass an ordinance.
I mean, it's an ordinance. It's a brand new ordinance. It's not an amending of an ordinance. It's a brand new ordinance. That's why it's dated 2024.01. So brand new ordinance, and it repeals previous ordinances. So we have a 2-page ordinance that's repealing a 13-page ordinance. We haven't been given a copy of that ordinance. We haven't been given any of this information. So the public doesn't know. We as board members were even kept in the dark. So to go ahead and pass this without any public review, any public hearing, does not seem to comply with what is required of us through the Sunshine Laws as well as Open Meetings Act.
So just so you know that if you don't have it in front of you, that EGLE just approved this printing of this ordinance 2024-01 on Thursday, the 18th.
And when we normally pass an ordinance, it would then be listed in the paper for a public hearing and public review, 14 days, and then 15 days, and then we would go and we would vote. But that's not what happened here. This is like now, and let's vote now. And it's like, how are we skipping the public's input part that there are MCLs to cover for the protection of the public?
Well, the one section that you read was the Planning Enabling Act, and the zoning ordinances also require the same public notices and public hearings. General law police power ordinances do not. This is a police power ordinance because the urgency is, EGLE had looked at it when I did the draft back in May and said, well, yeah, your draft ordinance is fine, but you have too many violations of the floodplain regulations.
Right.
And, pardon me?
Absolutely. There's like 52.
Yeah, so that's all in the email from Matthew Sheppard from EGLE.
Well, actually, we weren't provided generally with that.
So here's the question. The communication that you received from Matthew then said that we need to pass this ordinance which is considerably more skeletal than our previous ordinance. Excuse me, and that even if we pass this by July 31st, that we may still be suspended from the program due to all of those violations. Is that your understanding?
No, my understanding, because I wrote Matthew back and said, the building official has recently passed. We have a temporary building official.
Correct.
We have corrected 4 out of 52. We have a whole lot that I didn't know about. Is there any way we can get this ordinance adopted so that you can be compliant with FEMA's, federal government's, requirement that this ordinance be in place by July 1st? You wrote back and said you went back to FEMA, and FEMA said, yeah, go ahead and adopt it, and work on compliance later, basically. So that was sent off to Sherry and to
Sam?
Sam. And said, okay, adopt it, and then we'll get a new building official and work on bringing people into compliance with the FEMA requirements. It's adopted in skeletal form because it adopts the floodplain elevations by references to the code of regulations where they're published, as opposed to putting specific heights in. It's kind of like if you were to adopt the vehicle code. If you had a police department, you could adopt the vehicle code in a 2-page ordinance that says we adopt the entire state of Michigan vehicle code, which is 2 volumes of books. This is what this ordinance is doing, is bringing you compliant with FEMA's requirement and EGLE's requirement. I don't want to take the hit for this. I don't know. 2 months ago.
Right.
Now we just got this email from Matthew again saying published ordinance to be compliant. So what happens is if the ordinance doesn't get adopted, know that everybody in Coquitlam Township that has flood insurance through the federal government or is eligible for flood insurance from the federal government be disqualified from the program automatically August 1st.
And while I understand that, and I understand the need for speed here in getting this done, and again, I see that there was conversation that was occurring back in May and back in June on this, as well as communication back in December of '22 regarding all of the violations. I do not see anything from Matthew which indicates that pushing this ordinance through is going to make any difference. I don't see him assuring us we can work on that later. I have not been provided with that document whatsoever. And in addition to that, if we pass this today and it gets published, but we do have a requirement to do anything as far as public review or public notice prior to passing it, that's concerning for me, because that means we make them happy by saying, hey, look, we published it in the paper, but we didn't actually get there by legal means.
I got an email from Matthew.
7/18? I just got this this morning.
What happened is, Chuck has been doing all of those board meetings. I did 7 or 8 townships floodplain ordinances. They're all the same. They all have condensed down to a 2 or 3 page ordinance to adopt everything by reference, so that when you do it, and they've done it through the federal government, FEMA modifies the floodplain regulations every 14 years. So next one that'll be done will be ordinance 002 in 2028. It'll just modify 001 of 2024. We said 28, 38, 14 years from now, it'll be a new citation to adopting by reference in the Code of Federal Regulations where the elevations are and all permitted, etc. In any event, you got Matthew's email from Sherry, obviously.
Just today.
got mad, he told me to go back to FEMA, and they agreed to let us adopt it in May. Why it didn't get done, I can't tell you. I apologize, but, you know, that's what happened. So, I can't, you have your own conscience, and you all get to vote. What happens, happens.
Okay, but you can't give us a legal recommendation for specific public notice and public hearing on this? Specifically?
Okay, I'll go back to that statute, because that statute doesn't close to look at the emails.
And so, this is on a different note, but that means we have to continue working on the remaining 47 violations? Am I correct in that assumption?
Yes. And I understand Dave's real quick.
No, he's still with us. Monday, we're going to appoint, out of the applications, Monday, we're going to appoint a building inspector.
Okay. So yeah, your new building inspector has his work cut out.
Well, some of these are elevation issues, so.
Elevation certificates, but we don't have
Yeah.
one, even these.
Yeah, so that's concerning about whether or not they even can be resolved.
I didn't get any information from anybody about what the violations are.
Oh,
All I
Well,
got was
Dave-
that reply,
Dave-
and
Dave,
it's by ordinance, but you have too many violations outstanding that we're concerned about that.
yeah.
Dave has the,
Appeal process for provisional approval that we can get Collins residents still covered. And he wrote back and said he went to FEMA, and they said, yeah, go ahead and adopt it. So my assumption was that he didn't hit me with a 2x4, but my assumption was that he still wanted us to work on the violations.
Correct.
But he didn't specifically say that we were still okay, because that's where this started, was the violations. So, and it looks like,
No, he said, and you got the email in front of you that he sent back to Sherry, that will work. If you have a meeting this morning, he did it in the Pitt County Journal of Published website, it can be effective because it's not a zoning ordinance, so you don't have to write a referendum for it. It can be effective Thursday, and that'll meet the
Required.
July 31st deadline, and you'll be okay with FEMA and with EGLE. But now, the violations that have occurred over probably the last 20 years still need to be addressed.
Oh, actually, I don't think it goes back that far. These are, I'll drop off a copy of them to your office today.
Is this Charles?
Yes. I have to be in the city shortly, so I will drop that off at your office. You're still over.
Too close, I'm sick.
No, I'll leave it with the lady at the front desk for you.
Okay.
But,
Yeah,
our temporary building inspector has that list, and he has corrected some in Bangor and in Monitor, and he might even have some of them already corrected, because he was working on them since he's been here.
who's the new building inspector?
Well, the temporary building inspector that we hired when
Dave.
Dick had his stroke was Dave DeGrew from Monitor.
Right, I know Dave.
And he said that he's corrected some for them, and he knew how to do it, so I gave him the list, and he might even have some done now since we've started all this stuff.
Who am I talking to now?
that's Sam.
Sam, oh, we don't want to have a quorum on these phone calls.
Well,
We're at a meeting.
I'm just, that would be open meeting act violations.
we're in a meeting.
I identified at the very
Oh, you're in the
beginning.
meeting right now?
Yes.
I identified in the very beginning that we were in a public meeting with the 5 board trustee members, so that you would know that. So
Oh,
we,
you've got everybody there, okay.
that's why we want to vote, but we want to clarify with you to make sure there's no violation when it comes to public notice.
There is that.
Okay.
The only thing I don't know that happened is, I'm hopeful that you all got the notice of the meeting at home or online or someplace, and that it got put on the door, and we
Yes.
hours in advance.
Yes,
Yes, it's on the door, it was on the webpage,
yeah,
it was on the sign out front.
Okay,
yeah,
so that, I mean, you can have a special meeting on 18 hours notice.
Right.
yeah.
You don't have to have a copy of the ordinance available to the public, even though it's the weekend. I mean, I understand it smells bad.
And it looks great, but,
Well, we're between a rock and a hard
Right.
spot right now, and you all have to make your decision.
yeah,
And you have to do what, I mean, and Sam, when we talked about it in passing, when Justin said he's leaving, and, okay, we can help you until the election, but I can't take on a township. I've got, that's why Chuck's doing it. Chuck's retiring in February, so you're gonna have to find new attorneys.
Right, right, we understand all that, and, when we got this email from, Matthew
with legal.
on the 18th stating that this ordinance was correct, we made sure that, because there was a little conflicting conversation in the emails, whether we post it in the newspaper or vote on it first. And we were advised to vote on it and then put it in the newspaper.
Vote on it, then publish.
Yes.
Once it's been done.
And noon is the deadline to get it in the newspaper this week.
Right.
Well, Richard, thank you for your time, thank you for your insight. I will drop off a copy of what I have in reference to the
Thank
violations.
you, Charles, and, don't hate the messenger. I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
about this, but-
No, I appreciate the clarity, that's what we called you for, to make it easier to do the vote.
Have a nice meeting.
Yes.
For the rest of the morning.
Okay, thank you,
Thanks.
good day.
Yep.
So we'll take a roll call vote on the motion.
Can you repeat the motion, please?
Motion to adopt this ordinance 2024, seconded, motion by Davidson, second by Cruz to go forward.
2024-01.
01, yes,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
okay.
Campbell,
Yes.
Davidson,
Yes.
DeShano,
She's allowed to think?
I'm going to say no, only on the grounds that it's too much of a blanket repeal, and I'm not satisfied with that.
Glass,
Yes.
Cruz, yes.
All right. I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Charlie seconded it.